Oh, hello there again, everyone. I'm Aaron, here at Scorpion Ranch. Why is it called Scorpion Ranch? Well, first off, scorpions are here. So that's one part of the scorpion name. I've also heard that from above, the canyon looks like the tail of a scorpion. But why is it Scorpion Ranch? Well, this was an active sheep ranch for over 100 years, and you're looking at original equipment from that sheep ranching operation. Getting things on and off an island is difficult, so once the island became part of National Park Service property, all of this equipment was deemed to be historic and just stays out here. There's a bulldozer, there's a combine harvester, there's a tractor, and hey, there's a cement mixer. So if you go up into the campground and you see the water troughs, the cement was actually mixed here on site. There's the adobe building, there's the ranch house. So lots of fun human history out here, and not just ranching history. If you take a look at this plant over here, this is called gypsum weed, or datura. So this was a plant that actually had spiritual purposes for the indigenous people, the Chumash, who inhabited the island. So datura had a really special place, and still does, within Chumash culture. It actually kind of was associated with a wise old woman in the lore, and you can see, can't see it too crazy, but very white flower. And this was actually utilized for spiritual purposes. It does have psychoactive properties. Pretty much all the parts of this plant are toxic, so you shouldn't try it at home. But the Chumash would utilize it for spiritual purposes. Pretty much every Chumash did this at least once in their life with a shaman, and that was kind of a puberty activity. But yeah, definitely serious stuff, but also pretty cool. And you see it kind of all over. It grows along roadsides. You'll see along the 101 and stuff. So,
that's awesome.
Stuff.
What other, human history is a big question, but what other human history, a brief overview of Chumash to ranch and when that time period was?
So Chumash have been out here in one shape or another for thousands of years. The second oldest known human remains in North America, the oldest known human remains on the islands, were found actually on Santa Rosa Island, a human femur that's been radiocarbon dated to over 13,000 years old. That was found by Phil Orr in the 60s, the archaeologist with the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History. He was also responsible for finding a lot of the mammoth remains on the islands. So Phil Orr discovered the Arlington Man in the 60s. And yeah, radiocarbon dated to over 13,000 years old. And then, so the Chumash had a pretty extensive thing going out here from pretty much several thousand years ago all the way up until Spanish contact occurred in 1542. So 50 years after Columbus sailed the ocean blue, Cabrillo showed up here at the Channel Islands, made contact with the indigenous people who lived out here, and that did result in pretty drastic changes to the Chumash way of life. There wasn't extensive Spanish contact until the 1700s. That's when the Spanish actually actively colonized California, established a mission system, which it was in the 1800s that the last Chumash were brought off of Santa Cruz Island and incorporated into the mainland mission system. So at that point, there was no longer a Chumash presence on day-to-day habitation on the islands. Once it became part of Mexico, so Mexico rebelled from Spain, went from being part of Spain to part of Mexico. This became part of the Mexican land grant system. It was deeded as a land grant to a guy named Andres Castillero, and then from there he sold it off to a joint stock venture. By this point it's now a part of California and the United States. 10 individuals bought it as a joint stock venture. One of the partners, Justinian Kerr, he ended up becoming the main holder, acquired the whole island. He owned this whole island up until his death in the early 20th century. Upon his death, it was subdivided amongst his children and his wife. Two of the daughters who didn't get along with the rest of the family received tracts over here, where we are today, and then the Smugglers Ranch on the other side. Those two parcels were owned up until 1997 by the Guarini family, who still have rights to come stay in that house. And the Guarinis then sold it off to the federal government, and it was incorporated into Channel Islands National Park. The other western portion of the island, the Kerr family actually held on to it until the 1930s. The mother and the other children, they sold it off in the 30s to an oil fellow named Edward Stanton. Upon his death, his son Kerry took over management of the island ranch over there, and then he set up a conservation easement with the Nature Conservancy, and so now TNC, upon his death, acquired full control, and they manage it for similar preservation goals to the Park Service, but they also do manage it as private land rather than a public access component similar to over here. The University of California does have a field station over on that side of the island, so at this point pretty much the whole island is protected. It has habitat and towards preservation goals, but it's only this eastern quarter that's managed for public access as part of Channel Islands National Park.